Welcome to Kempner Canucks. The Canucks get their very first win of the season, winning 3-2 in Florida against the Stanley Cup Champions. Let's go! Oh, I forgot. Whenever we win, we're wearing the chain, everyone. We're wearing the chain. Let's go! Let's go! So if you like passionate, realistic, honest Canucks content, hit the like and subscribe. Follow me on all my socials. Listen, we are partying tonight. This is positive stream. We're going to talk about some realistic takes. We've got an awesome guest coming up just in a second. But the big question tonight, everyone, is this. How are you feeling as a Canucks fan? Are we winning the Stanley Cup? Okay. I'm just kidding. But how are you feeling? Post in the comments right now. How are you feeling? Because I'm feeling great. What a game. But what a finish. JT Miller, baby, with the OT thriller. Loved it. The Hughes goal was beautiful. I loved how dangerous he was all night. He is back. And then DeBrusk's speed was stellar. Loved it when he got that motor going. He was fantastic, everyone. And then, of course, you know me, and I love Höglander, Garland. They were both incredible. But you notice how the size of our D-men was noticeable. Love the size and skill of our D-core tonight. And they played good enough. They played pretty good. Petey and Hronek played insane minutes. And we needed to win that game. We'll talk about the lines in a bit. But let's just talk quickly about Sherwood had 10 hits, and Hughes had 9 shots. That's insane. Both those numbers are insane. And we're going to get into it tonight. We're going to dive into this, but I want to introduce you to an incredible guest all the way from his own channel, Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell Holiday, welcome to the stream. Nothing is perfect is in the building. Thanks for coming out. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing really, really good. It's hard not to be feeling good after a big win like that, eh?
Right? Oh man, what a great way. I was just like thinking, please score, because I feel like I'm gonna like if we don't win this game, I'm gonna be like, oh my goodness. So
I was running through the stats, and I went back all the way to like the 2002 season. The Canucks haven't started 0-4 in 24 years. So that would have been the worst start in the last 24 years. So thank goodness we didn't have to put that into the history books.
Right. Speaking of which, I think Nashville's 0-4. Yeah. And I think Colorado's 0-4. Like, these are two teams that I had in the top 10 of my power rankings. And how in the world are they this bad? But I'm so glad it's not us.
Thank goodness JT Miller making it happen in overtime.
Oh, and
what a beautiful shot too, eh?
Sniped it, top left-hand corner. My son and I were watching it. We were like high-fiving and yelling, and I was actually watching your stream during that. You're a little bit behind compared to, because that's what you do when you. So I actually made it so it was closer. Yeah, and I didn't want you to like ruin it for me. But at the same time, I wanted to like have a reaction to whatever happened and then hear what you had to say. So we're like high five, and I'm like, Oakley, you got to hear Russell. This is going to be his live take. And he was like, oh, we are so pumped. So good job tonight on the stream.
Good. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we've been doing that starting at the beginning of the preseason. We've been streaming during all of the Canucks games. And that's one of the issues, like you mentioned. There is obviously a delay between my video feed and the stream and people receiving it. And then even I've noticed some people are getting the game even like a minute before I do, and I'm watching it on a cable box, right? So that's one of the things we do every stream. When we drop in the puck, we make sure that I kind of say, hey, we're dropping the puck. We count down the first couple seconds. That way some people can kind of pause me or pause their own stream with the Canucks game, get it all lined up. That's why you can get those proper reactions when the goals are happening live.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, and then sometimes they put it in like, woohoo, JT scored. You're like, dang it, I didn't see that yet. So that's one of the challenges for sure.
Well, the 10-second goal was the one that really got us, because the Canucks finally score a goal, goes to review. Everyone's in, we're all thinking, is it a goal? We didn't really get a good shot of whether or not that puck had gone over the line. And then they said, goal, perfect. And we're all still high-fiving each other in chat, having a good time. And then all of a sudden, boom, 10 seconds later, it's in our own net. So kind of a weird reaction there. But yeah, we're still high-fiving, and one of my viewers is just like, it's 1-1 now. And we're like, beg your pardon?
And it was so fast. That was insane. It was absolutely insane, because like we're finally excited, and it's like it's over already. It's like, oh, here we go.
That's why we can't have nice things here in Vancouver.
Yeah. But like one of the things that I wanted to kind of bring up tonight is, if we're honest, like not only did we need to win that game, but we really needed to win that game because the Panthers were missing a few key players. No Barkov, no Tkachuk. And I'm just sitting there. If we lose this game, it's even going to be more insult to injury. So how were you feeling about that, with knowing that those guys were out?
It's one of those things. Every team's dealing with injuries. I know. I think Tkachuk is out with illness right now, and Barkov is still dealing with that ankle or knee or whatever he was dealing with. But I mean, as close as it was, they are the Stanley Cup champions. They are defending that cup right now. And so great that we got the win, probably too close for comfort. But I think part of that, I'll chalk that up to the Canucks still not really gelling as a team. I think once they hit their stride, once they've got a little bit more chemistry going on, I feel like they probably would have run away with that game. But honestly, a big part of why the Canucks didn't get more goals early on was that Sergei Bobrovsky back there in net. He was looking excellent.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things. I just did a members only live stream last night. And I always ask our members, like, what are some things that you'd like to see, topics, things? And in that came this question, and they want me to ask this every night. What opposing Panthers player impressed you the most? And I love the question. The problem is I feel like it's really obvious every night. Like 2 nights ago in Tampa, it's like Kucherov. You know what I mean? But tonight it was like Bobrovsky, and he just made those difficult saves look so easy. And it's like, this is the Stanley Cup champion goalie here. If it wasn't for Bobrovsky, I think we would have won like 5-2. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I mean, he stood on his head.
Lankinen was no slouch either, because I mean, Florida didn't take things lying down. They came back, they pressed hard, and if it weren't for Lankinen, I mean, I would kept on saying it tonight. It felt like pond hockey out there. It was just up and down, back and forth, and some points it was just chance on one side, chance on the other side. So we're looking at it. Bobrovsky held the minute to start, but then Lankinen really was the reason that the Canucks were able to hold on to that game. And man, it could have been one of those games like a 7-8 game, classic 1980s style hockey, with the way that they were flinging it back and forth.
Yeah, and it wasn't like we had them on the ropes the whole time. It was like, man, they could have won it easily as well. So that was the thing. I want to ask you this question, though, and I know that you've got a number of things that you want to talk about, but I wanted to throw this out to you because before the game started, they released the potential lines, and I just felt like I was so confused. I felt like one of my friends said, it feels like he mixed the lines in a blender, and it's like, so here they are talking about they need to build chemistry. They need all this kind of stuff to happen. Be patient with the team because all this stuff. And then you look at the lines and you're like sitting there going, say what? Like they took DeBrusk off of Pettersson's line and put him on the third line And you're like, what? Now, I understand Höglander going to playing with Pettersson because they played last year together, but it's like, why did you take DeBrusk off of there and then you kept Baines on that top? Why didn't you take that moment to put DeBrusk with Miller and Besser, and then they throw in Branson? We'll talk about Brandstrom in a second, but like some of these lines, they're all mixed up and there's no Sprong, and I'm like, how were you feeling about that? Because I was like, what is happening?
I feel like Tocchet's kind of put his entire lineup into a blender over the course of probably the last game and a half, maybe even almost 2 full games. And I think it's we keep on talking about how the Canucks need to build chemistry. I feel like Tocchet's doing this to find chemistry. It's still so early. There's lots of players that are new on this team. And that's the thing. You look at it, you put any team on paper and things can look really, really good. And to start the season, I mean, I'm a big Canucks fan. Every year we come into the season, I'm like, all right, this is our year. We've got a chance. Look at all this. We're going to have this lineup. Everyone's done their predictions for who plays with who. But at the end of the day, when they get on the ice, things can change. And so, I mean, keeping Baines on the top line, I wasn't actually a big fan of him starting up there. It feels like, why didn't Ratu get that chance? Or, you know, even in the past, like Besser didn't get the first line minutes. Pettersson didn't get the first line minutes. So to have a guy like Baines up there, but I guess they're kind of looking at Baines as more of an offensive guy. So I feel like that's probably why they had him up there. But, and then with regards to PD playing with Garland and Hogs, that might be Tocchet saying, hey, if you can't get going with these 2 guys on your wings, you ain't getting going, because these boys have been 2 of our best players all season long through the first 4 games. So, and I feel like it rubbed off a little bit on PD, but we can talk about PD a little bit later. I actually really liked the Bluger, DeBrusk, Sherwood line. Just sandpaper up and down that line. They looked like they were playing really well together. Just 3 hardworking guys. And I mean, Bluger ends up with a goal, right? That's his 2nd goal of the year. He's been really moving and then had the fight too, right? So 2/3 of the way to get the Gordie Howe hat trick. I think for me, the weirdest one was the last line, right? Because you got Almond, Suter, and Heinen lining up together, which I don't think they got a lot of minutes out there. I don't think I saw them very much. I think I probably saw them a little more than Brandstrom, but obviously that 4th line wasn't getting the minutes that maybe they played 9 minutes each or something like that. But with regards to Tocchet, I'd say I'm all right with it right now because it is early. Let's see, you know, you throw some spaghetti at the wall. If it sticks, then it's done. Maybe we can look at it kind of the same way with the lineup.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Getting some craziness there. Okay. So I agree with you. It didn't make much sense. I was very confused at a lot of the line stuff, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like going, this is weird. Now, if you win, then it's like, oh, Tocchet's amazing and so smart, you know, and I think he is so smart. I mean, he won the Jack Adams. So I get that. But also, you know, on defense, it was a big change because he's like Juleson and Forbert are out, which I actually thought both those guys played solid. And we're going Eric Brandstrom and Desharnais, and it's like, say what? Again, but if you look at the like what you were saying about the time, they barely played. He barely played those 2 guys, and he 26 minutes for Hughes and Hronek. So, I mean,
that's wild numbers.
When you're doing that, it doesn't matter who's playing on the third pairing, right?
In my notes from the game for Brandstrom, I just have Brandstrom, noticed him once.
Wow.
I think there's one shift where I saw his nameplate. The rest of the game, I don't think I saw him. I don't think I heard Shorty call his name out. So, I mean, Brandstrom probably wanting to ease in the lineup. But I don't know if you saw that, but initially they were planning actually having Juleson and Brandstrom in the warm-up before the game. So I don't know if they use that as kind of a way to make that final decision as to who gets in. But I think, you know, Brandstrom, Juleson's had some rough games lately. Like he blew a tire on that Kucherov goal. And then even going back into the preseason, there are a couple times he lost his footing. Seems like he might be having trouble with his edges or something like that. But I mean, it is what it is. Forbert had to leave for personal reasons. We're all hoping everything turns out okay for him. I did see Rick Dhaliwal tweeted out earlier. He says it probably will only be a couple days for Forbert. So that's good news from that side of things. But I mean, at the end of the day, what this really tells me is the Canucks defense needs some help. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that through trade, if they're going to be able to do that through self-promotion from maybe an AHL guy. But I don't think there's anything really down on the farm that would be able to step into this lineup right off the bat and make an impact. So at this point, it's kind of like, these are the parts we have. And so we're just going to have to figure it out. We're going to have to MacGyver this D core back together.
Yeah. And you know what's weird? As Desharnais never got even one hit tonight. And I'm like, my son and I are watching the game. He's like, Dad, look at all these like humongous defensemen. Like, and it's like, you've got Desharnais, Soucy, and Myers, and it's like noticeably tall. And Myers just has this mean streak now. It's kind of fun to watch. He does stupid things still, but I'm like, he's not. We always want him to be like Chara. He's not Chara, right? Yeah. But he uses his length and his skill that way, and he's got good skating for the most part on certain things. I just realized you can't play him huge minutes or he's really bad. But when they play the limited minutes, he's played really good, and so it's fun to kind of watch these. But then you've got Desharnais and Brandstrom that are standing beside each other, and you're like, you got a giant. And it's like David and Goliath on the same line. It's like, I don't know. It just feels noticeable, you know. That is something. It
almost feels like it should work, right? Like it feels like it's something that, you know, you'd put that together in NHL and you'd see that. I'm looking at Brandstrom right now. His ice time for the night, he only hit 11 minutes and 49 seconds all night. So we thought, not playing very much.
12, almost 12 and a half. So those guys barely played. I mean, it wasn't 9 minutes, but like Almond only played 9.5. That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, when you're just cobbling together lines like they seem to be doing right now, I mean, you definitely got to protect that. But like I said, depth is a problem right now, especially on the D core, and they're still obviously figuring things out on the forward line. So it's, I think the blender is going to continue here for a little bit, but maybe not after a win, right?
Yes. And the other thing is that I don't understand the logic of, and I think you kind of touched on this, but like the Höglander, Garland, Pettersson line is like, are you trying to get the smallest line in the NHL together? Like, this doesn't work long term. It's short term, sure, for a game or two, yeah. But like, I just don't understand that. That's why I'm like, don't take DeBrusk off there. Help them to have that chemistry. He's a bigger guy. You know, now at work tonight, I'm just worried that going forward, he's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And it's like, no, that's not really in the best interest. And I don't know how you feel about Höglander. I mean, everyone's a huge fan of his, but I feel like you do not need to put him in the top 6 because he scores 20 to 25 goals on the bottom 6, and you need to have bottom 6 scoring. So I know a lot of fans are like, put Höglander back with Pettersson. It's like, that doesn't necessarily mean success for Pettersson. How do you feel about that?
I feel like more than anything with putting those two guys with Pettersson, it's all about getting that motor turning. And you're right. Like even having Garland and Höglander as a pair for wingers, like I haven't done the research, but it's got to be maybe the shortest pair of forwards on a line in NHL's history, right? Because what are they? They're 5'5" each or something like that, right?
Totally.
But then you're right with Pettersson, who I think they have him listed at 190 pounds, but I don't know if I believe that, right? Like I figure by this point in his career, he'd be filling out a little bit. I almost thought maybe touches of Forsberg in there, but he hasn't gotten any thicker. He still looks like the lanky little guy in the first season that he played for us. And I think early in the season where we are right now, it probably works. Once you get to playoff time, that line would they would be all injured by the end of the first game. They would just be buried in the corner. So for now, it works. And if it can get Petey going a little bit, I'll take it. But I don't think it's going to be a permanent solution moving forward into this season.
Speaking of Petey, I just did a video an hour and a half before, 2 hours before tonight with you. And I did this video called The Pedersen Problem. And I'd love to hear your take. I've been very vocal. If you guys and girls haven't watched this yet, please check it out. I'm very real and raw on it. My frustrations are definitely out. If you follow this channel, you already know it. with me. But what's your take about it? And like, what's the solutions to this Pettersson problem?
I think I actually liked Pettersson's game tonight.
I did too. It wasn't.
The thing is that he set the bar so low through the first 3 games that, you know, you got to crawl before you can walk and before you can run and all that. So I'd say he's taken strides in the right direction. He was a little more aggressive with his shots. He made a couple really, really nice passes to his line mates. I still think he probably needs to try and get to this middle of the ice to get some shots off, like driving the puck towards the net. Someone in my stream said, Pettersson needs to drive the puck to the net. And he's like, no. Pettersson needs to dangle the puck to the net. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly. You picture it in your head all the times through the first few seasons. That's Pettersson. He's not going to bully his way to the front of his net, but he's going to break someone's ankles on the way and get there anyways. So I think we saw the improvement. And I feel like after maybe the last 7 months, he's been dealing with a bum knee, all that tendonitis problem. Maybe he's finally starting to get that comfort back and get on his toes rather than being on his heels. And I feel like having those 2 speedy small wingers on the line with him probably helped him tonight. So game 1, he looked okay. He wasn't an $11.6 million player yet, but I feel like slowly but surely he is moving in the proper direction. So we can all hope that he keeps on moving in that direction.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for a while. I'm just done protecting Petey. When you sign that big contract and you make the demands like you did with the team to be a contender, and then you're the guy who's not showing up, I'm like, I'm sorry, but you're not a player, a young player, a young prospect with potential anymore. You got bank, and I'm expecting you to play up to your level and up to the pay grade. You don't need to be top 5, even though you're getting paid top 5. I will even be gracious enough to say top 10. You need to like come out every night. Now, a lot of people are like, you know what? McDavid hasn't just scored his first goal tonight, and Matthews haven't. I'm like, yeah, but those guys like Pettersson is not even in the conversation as good as those guys at this stage. And so I get that. And so I'm done protecting Petey. I don't sit there and go, oh, you know, and I find that there's part of the fan base and they're entitled to their own opinion, Russell. Like I'm okay that they don't agree with me on this. But why are we pretending like he's like 21? You know, he's 26 years old now. He's a man and he gets bank. And it's like, okay, you earned it. Now go and do it. Because I mean, you don't want his name to be associated with Mark Messier and Louis Eriksson and these kind of things, right? And that's kind of feels like where it's trending after this contract.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
you're
it's
absolutely
happen,
right.
but I'm just saying it feels like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think I heard Thomas Drance earlier today talking about some of the stats. And the one thing that he made me feel really, really good about, he was on Donnie and Dolly, speaking with them. And the thing that he mentioned was the fact that players who've produced at a point a game through this first years of his career have not ended up being flops. So Thomas Drance is still saying, I believe in Petey. I feel like it's going to come. The other thing I would say, the 11.6 obviously feels like a big number, but then I just look over at Darnell Nurse in Edmonton and I feel a little better. He's actually making $12 million this year. His cap hit's not 12, but Darnell Nurse, $12 million. You want to have that guy as your fourth defenseman? And then the last part about his contract, I feel like it's going to age well. I feel like the cap's going to go up progressively over the next couple of years. You're going to see probably McDavid sign for what? He's going to sign for $15 million next year for 8 more years or something like that. And then all of a sudden, all these other big contracts coming out, suddenly all the top players are making 14, 15, 16 once the cap gets that high. And then Petey look at 11.6. As long as he can maintain a point a game, then I think that the contract will age really, really well. But you're right. Like I'm done with it. I'm not going to protect him anymore. He's not 21 anymore, like you said, and he needs to step up his game. But luckily, I feel like tonight was that first good step in the right direction through 4 games.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have almost 150 comments. and I want to get to some of them, but there was something that I wanted you to talk about. And can we talk about the Hughes goal and the controversy around the puck drop? So dive
It's
into that.
interesting. It's one of those things where on a normal play, the linesman should have probably blown that down right away. Because I believe the NHL rule is the puck has to hit the ice before either player can actually get their stick on it. So in that situation, regardless of whether or not it hit a stick or hit a glove, it didn't even hit the ice. So the linesman is the problem there. Throws the puck down, doesn't hit the ice, doesn't blow it down. But the interesting, I've never actually seen a coach's challenge on a puck drop.
Never.
And it was weird. And in my view, when I watched that replay, it actually looked pretty clear that it went off of the center's glove and then down to the ice. I don't think it was an intentional thing where it was in a hand pass, but it's the same rule for hand passes anywhere. Whether or not you mean to, if it goes off your hand, goes to your teammate, that's blown dead. So there's two occasions right there that they should have blown it dead. It should have been blown dead because the puck didn't hit the ice. It should have been blown dead because it was a hand pass. And then, coaches challenge and they still don't get the calls. So I think it's one of those things too, is like, who knows what these refs are all thinking? What was it the other night? It was against Shilovs. The puck got pushed in. His foot got pushed in the net. No goal. Goaltender interference. The exact same thing, almost the exact same play happens in the Edmonton game. They say goal. Right? So I think it comes down to that consistency too. Maybe the referees didn't even know that they could look back at the face-off. Is that even part of the rule book? I know there's a list of things that they're allowed to make coaches challenges on, offsides and that kind of thing. But I guess maybe they were looking at it as a hand pass, but I guess the evidence wasn't there. It has to be very clear. Once the call is made on the ice, you have to make sure that you get it absolutely perfect. So on video review, I think it was difficult to tell, and so they just let the goal stand.
Yeah. So is it a hand pass that they were arguing, or is it the puck didn't hit the bottom of the ice?
So it would have been the hand pass is what they would have been, because I don't think you can actually go back to a face-off and say the puck wasn't dropped fairly. It would be the result of it being a hand pass.
Well, because that makes sense, because if it's the other one, it's like, well, it's clearly getting hit before it hits the ice. And I kind of have a little issue with linesmen anyways, because I feel like they have a bit of an ego. They're like, this is my moment. They love to fake it, and then they love to kick someone out, and then they have to put it down the second time. And it's like, can you just drop the stupid puck? Like, what do you need some attention right now? The point of a whole referee and linesman is to not be noticed. You know what I mean? And not to affect the game. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, you're out. It's like, okay, just drop the puck.
RevTrev, you're reminding me. You were watching the game with your son tonight, right? So I used to watch a little bit of Canucks games with my dad, and there's one thing I remember. He would just yell at the linesman. It was all like, just drop the puck. Like, who cares? Throw it in the corner. I don't care. Just get the play underway. We're all sick and tired of watching you do your peacocking thing.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I should meet your dad. It sounds like a lovely guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
All right. Well, let's get into some comments tonight. I'm so glad all you are here. And Monty is one of my good buddies. He said, everyone is welcome. I benched my Canuck players in my fantasy pool and therefore locked this win for the Vancouver Canucks tonight. And he said, ask RevTrev. I called it this morning in a Facebook message. That is true. That is true. So that was hilarious. That was absolutely hilarious. Okay, now if I scroll down all the way to the end, let's see if there's any good questions. But anything else you wanted to talk about while I'm looking for some great questions?
Well, not great for Sherwood, but I thought it was funny. The comment that I made was Sherwood turned the other cheek tonight because he took a puck off one side and then turned his head and took a puck on the other side. So good guy there, making sure he's blocking pucks. I guess you probably don't want to do it the Chris Tanev way and get hit in the face. But either way, I mean, nice that he stayed in the game, but obviously a couple unlucky things there for him to take two pucks off the face in one night.
Yes. Andrew says that he felt like Petey had a great showing tonight. I just think that, Andrew, you and I have a different definition of the word great. But I think what you're saying is he was much better than he has been. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that. But yeah, it's interesting to see, like, fans are so excited about that. Russell, this one here from Daniel says, I kind of want to see Joshua playing with Sherwood and Garland, two crash and bashers with a wee little Wolverine in the middle. Sadly, none of those is a center. Joshua does take faceoffs when his line or his centerman gets knocked out, but I don't think, none of those guys are centermen, but those guys all together are pretty, like, what are they? Demolition from WWE days, or WWF actually back in those days. Here comes the Yaks, here comes the Smash, or Joshua and Sherwood, walking disaster. I don't know. That's kind of.
I can already see it. I can see it. But you're right. I mean, Joshua's not a center, so. But I mean, what was it? I think it was last season. He was like, at one point, he was like 67, 70% of the faceoffs, or because he didn't take a lot. But every time he did, he got in there and he made things happen. So you never know. Maybe we've converted people from, what was it? Dustin Bufflin went from forward to D. And, sometimes you see Char standing in front of the net. Let's play people wherever we want. If we want to really put the lines in the blender, let's make Joshua a center and put him with Sherwood and Garland. I like it.
But if you think about it, last year, I believe Joshua was number 6 in hits and Sherwood was number 10. And I think that was forwards, though, just forwards. But maybe it was including defensemen. Like, that's why I was excited to watch both these guys play. Because I'm like, man, it's gonna be seek and destroy. It's gonna be amazing.
Well, what'd you say for earlier today? Was it 10 hits for Sherwood tonight?
10. So
he's on pace for 820 hits.
Well, he didn't do that in the first couple of games, right? So
oh shucks.
So just below that.
Yeah.
Roberto says that he was shocked that the Canucks are not bringing in Sprong in the lineup. Makes zero sense playing Baines over Sprong. What do you think about that?
I think the reason that Baines in the lineup is because he is defensively responsible. And that's what it comes down to. You put Sprong on that line and he may get a good scoring chance, but he's also probably going to lose someone in the mess. And that might end up in the back of your net. So it ends up being a negative. And that's what it comes down to. You want to stay in the lineup, you got to be defensively responsible. And I feel like Baines probably knows the systems better too, and has just generally showed that he's a bit more gritty and little more defensively responsible. So I'm not so surprised Sprong is sitting on the sidelines. He's probably just sitting there watching video and sitting there with all the coaches getting railed so that they can maybe get this system into his brain. Maybe he can figure out the defensive structure.
And then the Blazers fan 22 is so thankful that Desharnais didn't hit because every time he hits, he gets a 2-minute penalty. I love that comment.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And Sophie's in the building. Good to see you, Sophie. Let's go Chaos Draft. I mean, he's been so much better than that. Like, rarely I feel like he's chaos anymore. But yeah, I've been enjoying watching Myers for the last season and a half. So it's been good. And it's funny how the fans have turned and appreciated Myers much more. I mean, last game, he had the phantom hit where it's like, why did you just level the opponent and the puck wasn't close? But everything else kind of seemed pretty good.
Well, did you see the hit tonight on Verhaeghe? Verhaeghe tries to jam the puck in at the side net, and Myers obliterated. He put him in the next week, and that's what you want to see from the man. I've been a big supporter of Myers, and I think the main reason I like his game is because we talk about the bad penalties that he takes, but at the end of the day, once the Canucks make the playoffs, which they haven't for the majority of his career here, those calls are not going to get made. And all is going to be is a good hockey play. He's going to be knocking people over. And so that's why I say at the end of the day, if the Canucks can make a good long playoff run, Tyler Myers I feel like he's going to be a big part of that.
Yeah. And you know what? I thought he was going to get a penalty tonight with that. So maybe that's the chaos giraffe moment. And it's like, what are you thinking here? But
maybe not thinking. Just acting.
No, he's just trying to, force some physicality. But they were pretty upset. Like, Verhaeghe's like, what's going on, refs? Like, and I think legitimately had that, right?
Yeah.
So they're talking about in here. A lot of people. Hey, Q Card, it's good to have you here. I know that you're in a lot of the streams for Nothing is Perfect. But
hi, Q Card.
Yeah, a lot of people really want us to trade for Rasmus Andersson. Are you feeling the same way? Like I'm just worried about how much that costs, and with their hot start, all of a sudden now the cost is higher. How are you feeling about that?
I feel like with the chef cooking, we might have a chance to get a decent deal on that, because it seems like everything Allvin touches just turns to gold. So like you said, I would be worried about the cost, because obviously he could be a big piece of a Stanley Cup contender. But I've been an admirer of Anderson for a long time. He is a tough-nosed guy. He's a character guy. He's someone you want in the room, and he's going to go out there and work his butt off, and he's going to drag the rest of the team with him if he has to. So if possible, I would absolutely love to see that, but I'm not giving up Lekermacki. I'm not giving up DPD. I'm not giving up any of these top prospects that we have after we've already given up Hunter. I can never say his name. Yeah. Hunter Brushinavich got his first point of his career against the Canucks when they were playing. So, sorry, the Abbotsford Canucks were playing the Calgary Wranglers. Brushinavich got his first AHL point against the Canucks. So already pouring salt in the wound right there. That's why I don't want to see a guy like Lekermacki, Pettersson. Those guys, they'll come back to burn us. So if we can get it for not trading any of our top prospects, I'd probably even give up a first-round draft pick for him. Maybe Hoglander. I don't know. But that might be not a popular opinion on this channel.
I mean, you got it. You're going to have to give up something, right? They're not giving them away for free. And, we gave up a lot for Lindholm, so I'm assuming it would be quite a bit, because Anderson has to be on the top pairing, right, in Calgary?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, why would they give him up? I guess when they're younger. Is he a RFA? I think that's why, right?
Yeah, so you might be able to get him for a little cheaper because of that. So it would be interesting to see. But obviously, again, trading within your own division sometimes is not an exciting thing to do.
Yeah. Dell says, when a big guy gives a hit, it usually ends up as a headshot, then a penalty. I understand what he's saying. I think that more happened with Zadorov. I don't see that as, Myers a little bit, but everyone we have is like 6 foot a million. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing how tall those guys are. So I guess that's the thing we have to worry about now. The good news is Myers barely hits during the game. He just hits after the whistle. So
I would say you got to quote Spider-Man's uncle on this one: with great power comes great responsibility. If you're a big guy, you got to make sure you're using that frame properly. Otherwise, you're going to be putting your team down, and it's not going to be a good look on you.
So Roberto's frustrated still, like the Baines and Almond are not NHLers and sitting sprung. He's ticked about that. I see what you're saying. I do think giving Baines experience is really beneficial. I understand what you're saying in the way that you don't feel like Baines is an NHL guy, but in the preseason, he looked quite good and he has some really nice goals. I feel like he earned Tocchet's respect, and he wanted to see if he can continue. I was shocked that Ratu went down. I thought he played good enough to stay, and next thing you know, he's gone. So I don't anticipate like Baines is going to be here for like forever, especially when Joshua gets back.
100%. Yeah. I think I understand people wondering about Almond more than I understand about Baines, because like we talked about earlier, Baines is very solid defensively, and he's put in the work. I think some people forget he started all the way back in Penticton. He was on the prospects team all the way back in Penticton. The guy has not had any rest. He went from the prospects tournament to training camp to the preseason, and he didn't even start all that well at the prospects. But as things went along, by the time he got to the end of the preseason, he was looking really solid, really good defensively. So, that's the main reason he's still in the lineup. And even tonight, I would say he had a decent game. I don't think he was great, but he did have a couple chances. And so I think Baines deserves to be in the lineup. But I think Almond's going to be a guy for his entire career. He's going to be in and out of the lineup. I don't know if I can ever see him as a 100% in the lineup. He's inconsistent. Sometimes he seems really solid defensively. They have him out penalty killing, and then other times he just feels like he's lost and he's playing cricket instead or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people in the chat are talking about DeBrusk. I thought he had a really good game. I just love his veteran presence. He's a playoff performer. He's been there. Like when he drove the net against Bobrovsky, and then they collided, and then they were so mad, and then they're coming after him, and they both got roughing minors, and I'm like, that's so dumb. I rewatched it. I'm like, what did DeBrusk do to, like, he got attacked, And it's like, okay, we better send them both. It's like, we should have been on the power play there, but I mean, it all worked out. But
well, not to mention that they're in Florida, so he should be able to stand his ground and not get charged, right? He was just defending himself.
Oh man, so weird. So weird. Callum is in the building. Good to see you, my friend. Nice to get that first W. Yeah, that's a relief. Honestly, it's like you just start feeling. I think when you come you're like Nashville, Colorado, Vancouver, and it's like you're on that list. There's 4 teams that haven't won a game yet. You don't want to be on that list. And then you got Calgary that have 4 wins, and you're like, really? Like Calgary should be on the list where we were, like. So it's frustrating, but it is sure nice to get that first win, and in glorious fashion, like that shot by JT Miller. That's why you pay, like what people pay to go watch. Like he beat the world-class goaltender and Bobrovsky. By the way, tell them the story about Bobrovsky.
Oh yeah, everyone remembers back in the day, Jay Onright on TSN. I love the Bobrovsky call where he goes mental. I think he actually talks about it like he's Officer Bobrovsky on the job, right? Bobrovsky. He just loses it every time he makes the call. So all night long, all I could hear when John Shorthouse said the name was Jay Onright calling out Bobrovsky.
Yeah, because I like the one with Shesterkin. It's like Shesterkin. It's like the Swedish chef, or Sorokin. It's like. Ultimate Fighter, not Ultimate Fighter. What's the fighter? Street Fighter. It's like
Street Fighter.
Sorokin. I like.
Yeah.
I always think about those. I don't know. Maybe I just got weird sense of humor. That's why I laugh so hard when Jay does those things.
Sometimes you just can't get it out.
I know. Nanaimo Shoe Repair says, I think once the Canucks get their footing in gel, they'll be very hard to beat. That's a good point, Jorg. Great thing to mention. And Carol really enjoyed Petey's game tonight. That's awesome. I don't know. I felt maybe what Dell was saying, Russell, is that Canucks played like a desperate team tonight, and it showed.
100%. Yeah, look at it, and I don't want to give mulligans out, but at the end of the day, the Canucks had a plane ride that's the longest plane ride that any NHL team will literally ever take from Vancouver all the way down to Florida, right? Like there is not a longer flight that you can take. And they had to delay as well because of the hurricane situation. We're glad that everything's getting cleaned up down there. But at the end of the day, they should have been there a couple days before that. They were planning on leaving right away after that Philadelphia game and had to delay. And as a result of that, you saw it in that first period against Tampa. They did not have legs and they were down early. And against a team like that, with a goalie like that, you're not coming back. So I didn't feel too bad, even though the score was pretty lopsided, 4-1. But tonight, you could see the Canucks were like, we need to show the NHL that we're not as bad as Colorado. We're not as bad as Nashville. And we need to come out and put the Stanley Cup champions away. And that's what they did. And you could see they were moving way better tonight. Still a little sloppy in their defensive coverage, like I said, pond hockey. But yeah, desperation definitely tonight.
What's your thoughts about this? Because I'm getting this a lot in the chats. Is you reuniting the lotto line?
So I actually was chatting with a friend yesterday, and I was saying we need to create a new lotto line because I felt like Miller was a really good piece for PD because I feel like them sharing the center made it so PD felt a little more freedom to be offensive. So the one thing I said, I would have loved to have seen Ratu actually get put on with PD in a similar fashion that they had on the lotto line. Ratu is maybe not the same intensity that you get from JT Miller, but very responsible defensively, really good offensive instincts, good passing, and in some ways a similar game to JT Miller. So I was hoping we could create a new lotto line with Ratu and Pettersson together. Unfortunately, like we saw, Ratu has now been sent down to Abbotsford, so my plans have been dashed.
Oh, that's awesome. Jorg, thanks so much. I had fun making that new intro. I like the tunes. I like the countdown with the Canucks, the whole thing. But thanks, I appreciate that. Jack reminds us that PDG was on the top line with Miller to start the year last year. As long as we collect points, we can upgrade later. That's a good point, I guess. I mean, I'm not the hugest PDG fan, but I love his his fight, his effort. And I was at the Game 5 Canucks Oilers, and he had that kind of spinorama goal. And I'm like, you know what? He's got some skills. So I'm not out on PDG, but it seems like he's more of a depth guy. And Talkett likes him a lot. What's your thoughts about PDG?
I love him, right? He's a heart and soul guy. Having his new baby coming in and being the hero, that was awesome. And the spinorama, right? Like, I watched that way too many times. I think I almost broke the internet with the amount of times that I watched that clip. But I think the question I had for you, RevTrev, was if you're looking at the line mates that Miller and Besser have had, now we're looking at, they've had Phil Giuseppe, they've had Suter, and they've had Heineman, and now they've had Baines. So 4 different guys. Out of those 4 guys, who would you say would be the best fit on that line? Because I think Suter's probably played the most there, but I don't know if there's that much of a difference between any of those 4 players that they put on that line. Everyone's talking about how Pettersson needed a new line mate. I almost feel like it's time to start talking about getting another legit player to play with Besser and Miller.
I've been very clear in my thoughts on Suter. I love that he's on the team. I do not like that they play him on the wing. He's way better as a centerman. And I understand when you have Ratu there, it's like, well, how do you can't. You have to put Suter as a winger. So I do think, like, if we're going there, probably Suter with them would be the best, like, most offensive upside, because there's a little bit of chemistry, but I don't like that at all. But did you say it was Baines, Suter,
Heinen?
Almond?
Heinen. They had Danton Heinen on their line to start the season.
Yeah, right? So Heinen is an interesting one. I feel like he's just been a jag, just another guy. Yeah. And it's just like, I know that he's better. When I predicted the lines to start the year, I thought it was going to be, they were going to start with Suter with the boys. I didn't want that, but I was hoping it was going to be like Höglander with that's who I would put. That's who I'd put with JT and Besser. That's who I'd put. But I thought they were the second line. By the way, I want to be very clear as well. Pettersson's line is not the first line. And Brendan Batchelor keeps putting him at the top line. Like, look at the minutes. Look at the production. He's a second line center. I know he gets paid a lot of money. Okay, sorry, I had a rant there. So I predicted they were going to do DeBrusk and Pettersson and Heinen and the right wing, because the 2 Boston boys with Pettersson, and they're both stronger. I thought that was good. But tonight they're going, let's go the smaller guys, the skilled and blah, blah, blah. So I still think that could be a line that would be effective on the Pettersson one, but I don't love Suter on with Miller. I want Höglander there, but if I don't mind Baines there, I'm just trying to think, like, Heinen there to me didn't do anything. And you don't want to give him all those minutes when he doesn't have the offensive upside. But I don't know. Maybe I'm out to lunch on that. It's just my, like, spitballing kind of opinion.
Well, there's a reason he played on the 4th line tonight, right? He really hasn't done anything. So he's been out there, and similar to what I talked about earlier with Baines, he is very defensively responsible. So he's not going to cause you to get scored on, but he's not going to be one creating offense out there. And when you're on the top line in the NHL, you have to be creating and defending. And that's why they get paid the big bucks to be on those top lines. So, I mean, even to start the season, I think I put a post on YouTube, and it was about how Heinen is going to be really good for the bottom 6. And everyone's like, he's lining up on the top line. And I was like, just wait. You'll see him. He'll be down on the 4th line soon enough. Because it was the same thing. Playing in Boston, he was up and down the lineup. Sometimes he would be on the top line. Sometimes he was on the bottom line. And it's a blessing and a curse too, because you can play him anywhere, but it's not necessarily for the right reason some of the time. So, but I mean, could be a little overwhelming for the guy. Good Langley kid playing for his hometown team for their first time. You might have even seen a little bit of that with Baines from Surrey last year. Maybe it's finally started to sink in a little bit better, a little bit more normal for Baines. So maybe we can see a similar increase in the play from Heinen once he gets used to the fandom of wearing the whale on his chest.
Right. Big Mac says that I like the way Kempner is talking about PD right now. Listen. I was very clear in my video that when a player produces, I'll definitely give them their credit. Like I like the Myers situation is perfect. He was bad. We all didn't like watching him. Now I really give him a lot of credit. I feel like with Pettersson, I will be that way the moment I don't, but I'm not sitting there like trying to defend or protect him. I'm really sitting here and going, when he has a good game. In fact, the Tampa game, I actually thought he was better than everyone else said. There was a couple moves that he made, and then that kind of half spinorama pass. Like, he's a good passer. He's just not shooting the puck properly. He's not driving the net. He's not dangling. He's not driving the line. Like, there's a lot to be nervous about. But when he does do it, I thought tonight like Russell said, it was his best game so far this season. So I'm glad you like that. But I just want you to know, like, I'm straight goods when it comes to this kind of stuff. So sorry. Now, this one, Q card, listen, I want to hear your take on this, but just give me a second. The audacity that Toronto would be even remotely interested in this trade is zero. Okay. Now, the realistic one, in my opinion, would be Pettersson for Marner, and Canuck fans never like that one, but I talk about that one. That's probably the most realistic one. Problem is Marner goes crazy silent in the playoffs, but he's a consistent 100-point guy most years. So I don't think the Nylander thing is even like, it's a pipe dream for us, but it's hard to trade a center for a winger. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. There's no way Toronto doesn't trade Nylander for Pettersson straight up. There's no way that's happening. Nylander has been he's been their best playoff performer, right? And Marner is the exact opposite side of the spectrum. He, like you said, he absolutely vanishes when it comes to playoff time. So I don't want Marner on this team. I think the thing that always pops to my mind when people compare Marner and Pettersson, I remember Pettersson playing over in the Swedish League, MVP of the finals, right? MVP of the playoffs. So I feel like Pettersson has that in him. He just needs to find that in the playoffs, which he hasn't really seen a whole lot of the playoffs. And last year, obviously dealing with a knee thing, but I feel like moving forward, you're going to see Pettersson do a lot better than Marner does in the playoffs. And that's really what we pay them the big bucks for, even though they don't get paid in the playoffs. So I think I wouldn't make that trade for Marner either.
Angelo says, if it doesn't work, I don't know, maybe Sedin's with Pettersson. You know what? That wouldn't be a bad idea. Just saying.
What was it in training camp? They had Tocchet and the Sedins with Gonchar and Foot playing in a power play role. Maybe we just get that line back together, right? A couple of Hall of Famers.
If he wants to come out of retirement.
Yeah.
Dell says, I think there's a disconnect between Petey and Tocchet. Miller and Garland have a good rapport during the game. Tocchet is talking X and O's with Miller, never with Petey. That's an interesting comment. I feel like that kind of comment is gaining traction in Vancouver. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm going to have to pay closer attention now that I've seen this comment. The next time I watch the game, I'm going to have a look and see. Because you do see the coaches coming over and chatting with the players. I can't think of a time where I saw Tocchet speaking with Petey, but it might be too early for me to comment and say that that's what's happening. But yeah, now Dell, I'm definitely going to keep my eyes open, looking at the bench during the game and see if there is any of that conversation happening between the coach and Petey.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people are like, well, he played good under Boudreau, but he hasn't playing good under Tocchet. Well, he did play good under Tocchet. Last year, the first half of the season, all the way till January, till All-Star game, he was literally on fire. So I don't understand the logic there. It's like, it's not factual. And when it's not factual, I just can't get on board with it. But I understand what they're saying is, like, under Boudreau, he had 102 points, and I get that. Well, so did Kuzmenko. He had 40 goals or whatever it was, 39 goals. It's like, and what's he do now? I mean, I guess he's doing okay this season, but I don't know.
Do you know who loves this Pettersson talk more than anyone? Hronek, because he just signed a fat deal and he hasn't looked good since December last year, and nobody's talking about it. So Hronek flying under the radar as he always does, right?
I know. I was really upset how much money he got because I'm like, he paid half a good year and he gets it. And it's because he's a right-handed shot defenseman. He better produce. I felt like he was pretty good tonight, but again, you got to make you're gonna get paid. Got to produce, right? So I don't know. I feel like I'm a broken record on that.
No, you're right. You're right. Keep on saying it. It'll eventually sink in and people will understand.
Yeah. I don't believe the speak it into the universe and it happens thing, but it's pretty funny though.
You're speaking into your viewers' ears.
I just got to change the narrative a bit.
Yeah.
Murray is from New Zealand. Canucks fan from New Zealand. Welcome, Murray. Good to have you here. He says, I think realistically, when you listen to Coach Tocchet, when he speaks, you get the sense that the more they play, the better they gel as a team. Yeah, that's probably a good. I mean, that's what every coach is hoping for, right? So,
I think the thing that makes me feel good about the Canucks so far is that the errors that they've made in their defensive coverage have been so obvious that it feels like it should be a pretty easy fix, because there has just been breakdowns where some guy like Kucherov is all alone right in the faceoff dot. How does that happen? There's no way you let the most dangerous 140-point player in the league all alone right in his spot, but somehow it happened. And that's because people didn't know what their assignments are. And like he's saying here, once they start gelling, I think the Canucks are going to be a very scary team and the league should be watching out.
Yeah, you're right on that for sure. For sure. Okay, I didn't realize this, but Lucas Gates, legendary Lucas Gates, says, hey, RevTrev, oh boy, we had NHL 25 making his debut tonight. Thanks to, is it Cybulski? Cybulski and EA Sports donating it at my day job and finding out we won in overtime. Good omen. Let's go. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So my son has a good friend, and he goes over his house and he's like, let's play Chell, right? The thing is, my son has played so much Chell. It's crazy. And he's not played hardly any. He's like, I just got this game. Let's try it. It's like an older version. My son keeps smoking him like 6-0, 6-2. And he's like, so he phones him up tonight and he's like, hey, come on over and play some Chell with me. And he goes, I mean, you want your butt kicked again, right? And he goes, no, I'm not going. I'm watching the game with my dad. I'm like, yes, finally get to watch a game with my son.
Funny kid.
Usually they go like, see ya, Dad. I'm going to play Chell.
Yeah, he was tired of giving that guy a pounding, and now he's ready just to sit down and watch a real hockey game.
And I used to play a ton of Chell. I mean, back in the day, but even recently. But I got too addicted. I was a hardcore Madden and NHL streamer, and I actually got addicted, and I had to quit, so it wasn't good for life. But it was just so much fun playing those games because it's just like being the players But I get addicted to the part where you like sell and buy players and build a roster and all the what do you call ultimate team stuff. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm the guy who doesn't want to spend money. So you got to put all the time into it, you know? But I just love that the NHL 25 has the Hughes boys all on the cover and Quinn is the main guy on there. And that there's no Madden curse. You know what I mean? So it's like Hughes is not going to get hurt or injured, I don't think. But knock on wood.
See, I'm a 49ers fan as well, so I am feeling that Madden curse right now with CMC being out of the lineup, the best player in the entire league, and it's not fun right now.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I'm a huge NFL fan, gigantuous. Speaking of which, so I did the Pedersen video. I jumped off. I did my Packers review because I'm a huge Green Bay Packers fan. I did that video. And then I got done that, chatted with my wife for a few minutes, and then I'm on with you. So I'm a little bit like, this is my third stream tonight. And so it's going crazy. It's hard to pull it off. But yeah.
Hardest working man in Canucks sports media.
Yeah, the Madden thing is real. It is real. And McCaffrey is an absolute stud. Absolute stud. Yeah.
You guys almost had us in the playoffs last year.
Oh, man. This is the first time we were even close. Even close. And it's like, can you not hit the field goal, bro? Just like you got one job. You got one job. Meanwhile, we've gone through, we're on our fourth kicker now. So I think everything's all good. But anyways, I know there's a lot of people in here that don't want to talk about the NFL, but I think you and I could probably talk about it for a long time. I might have to have you back on my other channel, just talk about the 49ers. So that'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we should wrap it up here. We've been on for an hour, and I really appreciate you coming on. Everyone, I should have said this at the beginning, but it's kind of obvious. Can you just take a moment to hit the subscribe button on Nothing is Perfect? When you go to Nothing is Perfect, you got to put a 0 at the O for the nothing part. And Nothing is Perfect. Hit the like and subscribe. He does great content, and there's always room for good Canucks content creators. Glad to have you here. And you're at 709 subscribers. That's awesome, man. Congrats, because the first 1,000 is a massive grind.
Mm-hmm.
As you know.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So that's why here at Nothing is Perfect, we're putting the 0 in nothing. And that's how you have to try and remember the name. It's funny. The only reason that my stream is called that is because obviously Nothing is Perfect is just booked up everywhere. It's been taken on every single website. So I was like, I'm going to put a 0 in it. And then afterwards, I'm thinking, oh, now I have to explain every single time to every single person that the O is actually a 0. So we say we're putting the 0 in nothing. But awesome. Yeah, streaming during every single Canucks games. It's been a lot of fun. We did all the preseason games to start. Like I've just started streaming here in the preseason, and we did the 5 games in 7 nights. It was a grind, and now we're in the regular season. We're grinding, but yeah, we'll be here every single Canucks game together, watching the game live, interacting. We actually had one of our viewers on the show tonight chatting, Big Mac, who I think is in the chat right now. Shout out to Big Mac. And it's been a lot of fun. So I very much appreciate RevTrev, the invitation to come on and see you. I'm loving the content. I'm loving that new intro, by the way. And I definitely would love to do some more stuff with you moving into the future, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm game, man. I'm game. I love collabing with people. It's just good to have some conversation. Plus, I'm kind of getting tired of just me talking all the time. But so, just kidding. But I do appreciate the fan base is faithful. I was very surprised. I thought they'd be more up and down. I have found our fan base to be really faithful, really smart when it comes to the hockey. So I think it's good. And you just got 2 new subscribers right now. So that's exciting. Good job, everyone. But yeah, so if you like the intro, you're going to love the outro. But thanks so much for coming on. And everyone, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Whether you're watching this live or you're going to watch it later, I want to thank you for being here, and it's a great day to be a Canucks fan. Big win. JT Miller, baby. Quinn Hughes with a rocket. Bluger with another goal. I mean, the future's bright now, apparently. And the playoffs are possible. So thanks, Russell, for being here. Any last comments before we go?
I always end my streams telling everyone just make good choices.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice. All right. Go Canucks, go, and have a great night, everyone. Gotta end the stream.